The bizarre case of the king who rotted alive. Imagine being entombed alive with a horrifying and slow death awaiting you. As time passes, your body begins to physically and mentally deteriorate from the conditions you are forced to endure. This is exactly what happened to an ancient king. But how did this terrifying fate befall him? Let's find out in today's episode. During the Middle Ages, it was common practice for royalty to be buried alive. If they were entombed while still alive, their bodies would decompose and release gases, which could then cause their coffins to break open. It sounds gross, but it also makes sense because if you're worried about your own mortality, the last thing you want to do is accidentally bury someone alive. In 1826, a group of French workers were excavating a crypt at the Abbaye de Morigny when they came across the tomb of an unknown monarch. The coffin had not been disturbed since the Middle Ages, and inside was a skeleton wearing shackles. It was clear that this man had not died peacefully, but instead was murdered. Was he a victim of foul play, or did someone accidentally kill him? Let's continue to dig deeper into this mystery. Born in 1165, Louis VII became the King of France at the age of 14. He succeeded his grandfather Louis VI and inherited a kingdom that was divided against itself. There was a civil war going on between the English and French nobility. Louis was unpopular with the people, and some even called him the youthful king. However, he married the daughter of the English king in an attempt to end the war. Unfortunately, this didn't work, and he spent most of his reign trying to regain control of France. In 1180, Louis suffered a nervous breakdown and went insane. His behavior changed dramatically as he began to experience auditory and visual hallucinations. One day he talked to a bishop about what he was seeing and hearing, and the cleric wrote it down in a letter. In it, Louis claimed that demons were whispering things to him and that he heard chains dragging him away. He believed that his wife was poisoning him, and he began to see her as a witch. After he had her put in jail, he declared that he wanted to leave the kingdom and go live in a forest. Before doing so, though, he chained up his wife and ordered her to be burned at the stake. As she was being led to the pyre, she managed to escape and flee to England. Louis VII was now considered a heretic by the Church. Pope Gregory VIII excommunicated him, declaring him a traitor to God and the Holy Church. The Pope sent his brother, Cardinal Hughes de Saint-Cher, to depose him and take over his royal duties. Hughes arrested Louis and brought him back to Paris, where he held court in the palace of the Archbishop of Paris. On September 6, 1189, Louis VII died at the age of 24. Although he had no children, he left behind two nephews, Philip and Louis. They were the sons of his brother, King John Lackland, who would later become famous for losing the English part of the kingdom during the Magna Carta uprising. On the day of his death, Louis VII instructed that his nephew Philip should succeed him as king. However, Cardinal Hughes intervened and proclaimed Philip's younger brother Louis as the new monarch. This was a controversial decision because King John had given up his claim to the throne in exchange for land in Ireland. So according to the succession rules, it should have gone to Philip next in line. Hughes ruled France in the name of the child king until he died. Philip then took the throne and became known as Philip II Augustus. He was the first Capetian king of France, and his reign marked the beginning of French national consciousness. However, it wasn't all smooth sailing. When Philip seized power, England still controlled large parts of France. To solve this issue, he went to war with King John of England and managed to win back a lot of land. As Philip's power grew, so did his wealth. He built castles, palaces, and cathedrals throughout his domain. But as he got older, he started to suffer from mental health problems. The same illness that had taken his uncle's life now gripped him. At first, it only affected him during his sleep, as he would have nightmares and talk in a strange manner. Then the illness began to affect his waking hours. He started to hear voices telling him to do terrible things, and even believed that his counselors were witches who wanted to poison him. In 1218, Philip visited his doctor, Guy de Chauliac, and told him about what was happening to him. The physician examined the king and concluded that he was suffering from melancholy. Melancholy was a medical condition in the Middle Ages that encompassed a wide range of symptoms, including depression, anxiety, delusions, and hallucinations. Treatment for melancholy often involved bloodletting and other forms of torture. And tragically, this is what happened to Philip. Guy de Chauliac treated the king by giving him mercury enemas. Mercury is a powerful drug that can be used to treat syphilis, but it is also highly toxic and can cause severe side effects such as tremors, psychosis, and even death. Despite knowing this, the physician continued to administer mercury to Philip until his death on July 14, 1223. Less than a month after his 41st birthday, the autopsy revealed that he had died from mercury poisoning. Philip was initially buried in the Basilica of Saint-Denis near Paris. But in 1661, his remains were moved to the Church of Saint Genevieve. No one knows why this transfer took place, but it may have been done to protect the tomb from grave robbers. Grave robbing was common during the Middle Ages, and often the bones of saints were stolen to sell as souvenirs. Fast forward to the French Revolution in 1789, when the church was destroyed. During the revolution, many tombs were desecrated and the remains of saints were scattered. No one knows what happened to Philip's body after this, but it was likely lost forever. In 1904, a group of archaeologists were excavating a site in eastern France when they came across a lead coffin. Inside was a skeleton wearing shackles. They believed that this was the body of Louis VII, but they couldn't be sure because no one knew where he was buried. It wasn't until 1912, when another team of archaeologists found a wooden box containing letters and documents, that they realized they had found the actual tomb of Louis VII. The archaeologists carefully opened the coffin and removed the skeleton. They were surprised to find that it was wearing shackles and immediately knew that this was the missing king. They took the bones to a local museum where they have remained ever since. But what happened to the skeleton wearing shackles that was found in 1904? Well, it turns out that it wasn't actually Louis VII after all. Instead, it was his nephew Philip II, Augustus. After his death, Philip was buried in the Basilica of Saint-Denis, but during the French Revolution, his tomb was destroyed. Grave robbers stole his bones and sold them to collectors. One of these bones ended up in the hands of a private collector who donated it to the museum in 1904. So why did they keep the shackles on his bones? Well, it was to prevent grave robbers from stealing them. It seems like an odd choice, but during the Middle Ages, grave robbing was a serious problem. To prevent this, people would put obstacles in the way, such as rocks or chains, to make it difficult for thieves to get to the body. It wasn't until 1826, when it became fashionable to steal bones from old graves, that people started to use shackles. This was because people believed that the bones of saints had special powers and could be used to cure illnesses. These days, it's illegal to dig up graves, let alone steal bones from them. But during the 19th century, it was quite common. People would go to graveyards at night and dig up bodies using long hooks. They would then sell the bones to grave traders who would make a profit by selling them to museums or private collectors. It might seem strange to us now, but back then, there was a big market for human bones. People believed that the bones of saints could be used to cure illnesses, so they would pay a lot of money for them. This meant that grave robbers were able to make a decent living doing what they did. Now you know the story of the bizarre case of the king who rotted alive. Did you find this video interesting? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.